Hello, hi, and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Sarah, and this is Wicked Reading. So today I'm going to share with you guys my somewhat planned TBR for the horror bingo card reading challenge that I created. This is the bingo card. If you haven't seen my announcement video yet, I will link it up above and down below, where I talk about each prompt and the hard mode and all the rules of the reading challenge and all of that good stuff. So if you haven't watched that, go ahead and check that out. But I'm so excited to talk about the books that I plan on reading for this bingo card. I'm going to try to fill out the board with mostly books that I already own on my physical TBR, because one of my goals moving forward is to shrink my physical TBR. So I planned most of this based on the books that I already own. There are a couple spots where I know that there's books available on KU that would fit it, so I went ahead and kind of wrote those in for now. Those are a little bit subject to change, and there's a couple of spots where I have books planned for them that I don't own currently physically, but I do very much plan on buying the book, so I will eventually own it physically. So I try to, keep it in the library, in my home library, try to not stray very far from that. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to go through the prompts from the top left row, work my way across, and go down from there. Okay, so the first spot is published in 2024. Honestly, there's a few books I could put here, so I'm not really specifically planning one for this spot. I have Grass Hands by Kyle Winkler that I really want to get to. I really still want to read Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I love Paul Tremblay, so I do want to still get that book and give that a shot. I don't know, I have a lot of books that could fit into this one, so I'm not specifically picking out one for it, but again, I'm doing hard mode for this whole board, so I'm just gonna make sure that I read it by the end of 2024. And yeah, so that one's a little bit open because I have a lot of options, honestly. The next square is The End Times Are Near. So I have American Rapture by CJ Lead on my NetGalley shelf as an e-arc, so that is definitely a contender for this spot. Another one that I kind of really want to check out, but I would have to get it from the library, I don't own it in any way, shape, or form currently, is Moon of the Crusted Snow. I've heard kind of mixed things about it, but the people that like it, the way they describe it, it sounds like something I would like, so I do kind of want to also maybe check that out from the library. The next spot is This Is Halloween. I think for this I might try to get my hands on Halloween Fiend by C.V. Hunt. If I can't get my hands on that one, I might do Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge. Both of these would be library checkouts, probably an audiobook, I'm thinking, as long as there's an audiobook for both of those. I know Dark Harvest definitely has one, but I don't know if either of these fill out hard mode for the prompt, but I might end up having to read both. I have a good feeling that they probably do include mentioning trick-or-treating in one way or another, but that's kind of a one that you kind of have to read the book to know. So we'll see if either of those work for that prompt, but those are my two current top contenders for that spot. Okay, and now finally I actually have a physical book for this spot, and for the wood/wilderness spot, I'm going to read The Ruins by Scott Smith. I have been wanting to read this for so long now. I don't know why I haven't still, but I haven't, and it needs to be read. It's been on my TBR for a while now. People who know my reading taste very well think that I'm going to love this, so I think maybe I'm subconsciously pushing it off because of that. I don't want to not love it, but I have a good feeling about it. So I know that it takes place in the woods, in the forest of some sort, and better yet, there's no trees on the cover, so it fulfills hard mode. Yes, it has a flower, but it's not a tree, so it counts. Oh, you know what? I skipped the last spot. Sorry. So the last spot was actually the first spot that I have a physical book for, and that is Blood on the Cover. And for hard mode, it must be pretty much the majority of the cover, a very prominent aspect of the cover. For that, I have the Twisted Retreat version of Blood Covenant. It is literally just all blood, so that works perfectly. This is very much I think devil demon type of story. We have a criminal that does a bank heist, and he is running away from the police and goes into this cabin that he believes is empty, but there's actually a family staying in there, so then the family ends up being hostages of his, and it just says, when blood is spilled ancient, what does it say? Something ancient notices. So I think it's very much supernatural territory, but yeah, very much a lot of blood on that cover. So works perfectly. There's even a bunch of blood on the inside. It's a very gory looking book. The next row starts with honoring the classics. And for that, I plan on reading Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Sorry, I think that that's a French name, so I cannot pronounce it, but this edition is absolutely stunning. I love it. And this fulfills hard mode because this was originally published in 1938. So it was published before 1950. So that's my plan for that spot. This, I believe, is like a gothic romance. It's very much grouped in with more classic horror. So that's my plan. The next spot is translated horror, and for that I'm going to read Nefando by Monica Ojeda. It fulfills hard mode because there is a translator's note. I love when they include a translator's note. I just think it's so interesting because just the world of translating books is already so interesting to me, and I love to get a little bit more perspective from the translator's note. So that fulfills that prompt. I'm really excited for this one. It's kind of like a techno horror, so I don't really know what to expect, but tech horror is something that I really want to read more of, and I think that this will be a great way to get in there because I love Monica Ojeda's writing, and I think it's going to be very trippy, very fever dream feeling. It's not very long either. It's still considered a novel, but it's a very short novel. It's only 164 pages. So I'm really excited to get into this. The next spot is cover pick. And for hard mode, you must not know what the synopsis is. So I've been holding on to this for a while because I wanted to do a video that is specifically picking books based on their cover and just kind of knowing the genre, not really knowing what it's about. So I obviously have not done that before, but here it comes into play. And I have The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. I don't know the synopsis of this. I have heard that there's body horror in it, so that's all I know, and that still counts. I don't know the setup of the story at all, but I love this cover so much. I think it's so stunning. I love anything with florals. If I wanted to maybe switch it up, I do have Brat, a ghost story by Gabriel Smith. I just recently hauled this. I don't really know what it's about. I just kind of based it on the excerpts or like the blurbs all over the book. So I don't really know what to expect with this one either, but I love this cover so much. It's literally iconic to me. So I could maybe include that one, but my actual planned book is The Honeys. Next up, we have Reaper Read. So that is a book surrounding death and grief and all of that. And for hard mode, the book must include a physical manifestation of death itself personified, or some kind of physical being. And for that, I believe Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova will work. I'm pretty sure like this little creature is actually a creature, physical creature in the story. So I think that this should work for it. If it doesn't, I still want to read this book anyways. So I'm really excited for this. And it does follow a grief story where a mother loses her son and she takes a piece of lung, and that I believe is supposed to form into this little creature, Monstrilio, and the story goes from there. So this is another one that I have been putting off, despite people telling me how much they think I'm gonna love it. I swear I'm going to get to it, and this board is pushing me to do it finally. Next up is The Title Has a Spooky Word. For hard mode, it must have 2 or more spooky words. So for that, I picked Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the second book in the Indian Lake trilogy by Stephen Graham Jones, the first book being My Heart is a Chainsaw. I absolutely loved that book so much, and I really need to move on with the story and get to the second book. I don't own the third one yet, but I will eventually buy that one too. But this has Fear and Reaper in it, so I'm counting that for hard mode, and I'm really excited to carry on with the rest of the story. It's very much slasher, kind of like a slow slasher, but our main character just loves horror movies, and it's very much like a character study more so than a slasher, but there is slashing. But it's very character driven, and I really loved following Jade in the first book, so I'm really excited to carry on with her story in this book. The next spot is Dead Man Walking, and for hard mode, it must be part of a series. So I did read Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion, so I could continue with that series and do either the prequel or the sequel. I don't own either of those right now. I don't own anything that would count for this prompt that I know of, whether it be a straight up zombie series or just like reanimation elements involved. So I don't think I own anything currently that would fit that, but I did start Warm Bodies. I already read that one. So I could maybe do one of those, or I was thinking I might check out Feed by Mira Grant. I have read from them before. I read Into the Drowning Deep and I really loved that one. So I might check that one out. I think it might be YA, but don't quote me on that. But that is another straight up zombie book that is in a series. So that's the start of the series. So I might get into that. Since I don't own anything physically for this one, I'm not going to pinpoint one specific one, but those are the books that I'm leaning towards currently. The next space is genre bending, and in this case, it would be horror mixed with another genre. For hard mode, it should be with a genre that you don't typically read. So I was thinking along the lines of like a horror romance. So I recently found out that The Har by David Sodergren, Kitty from Spicy Cats Reads, she recently put up her like favorite horror books, some like horror book recommendations on a video, and she mentioned that if you want to get into monster romance, check that out. So that intrigued me. Not that I necessarily want to get into monster romance, but I'm a little curious about it, so I might use that one because that is available on KU, so that would be easily accessible for me. Another one though that I have is Sugarcane by Cassandra Celia, and I believe this is a horror romance as well, but I'm not totally sure. But I got this in a Twisted Retreat box, so I do own this one physically, and that might work for it. I'm not 100% certain, but this is another option, so it's probably going to be one of those two. Next spot is a 5-star read. I don't know, and I don't know what to predict 5 stars currently because that is the hard mode version. So that's something I'm gonna wait on and kind of think about it along the way. I might end up making like another 5-star prediction specifically for that spot. I haven't really sat down to look at my shelves and think what would be a 5-star prediction, so I'm gonna wait on that one, but it's going to be something hopefully for my shelves. Next spot is BIPOC author, and for hard mode, it must be a author that you have not read from before. So for this one, I am definitely going to check out a Tananarive Due story. I hear such great things about her books. I know The Good House is available on Kindle Unlimited, so that would be accessible to me. I do really want to check out The Reformatory, so I might do that one and get it from the library. We'll see, but it's probably definitely going to be a Tananarive Due story in some capacity. The next spot is cryptid, and for hard mode, it must be a cryptid creature that didn't know anything about the lore before reading the book. So for that one, I have a perfect one, and that is Kappa by Ranosuke Akutagawa, I believe. And this is a very short book, so this is like the shortest book that I have on here. It's pretty much a short story. It's under 100 pages, but I'm going to use it because I have no idea anything about this cryptid creature, and I would love to find out about more cryptid creatures from other cultures. So I'm really excited to get into this one. It is a translated work as well. We follow patient number 23 as he talks about his interaction with this Kappa creature. And I'm so excited to learn about it because I have no idea what it's about. So that is my choice for that spot. Moving down to the next row is the title has a number. For hard mode, it must have either 2 numbers or a number with a quantifying word of some sort. Midnight, can't even think of another one. Half, another word that is just like a quantifying measurable word. So this is another one. I don't have anything currently on my shelves that would fit the prompt for hard mode specifically. I do have 12 Nights at Rotter House, but that wouldn't do hard mode, and of course I'm doing hard mode. So I think I might check out Nosferatu by Joe Hill for that. I will probably get it from the library or do the audiobook. For me, this counts because the numbers are separated by a letter. So I'm gonna count that one, but it could change if I find something else that fits that prompt. But I have been wanting to check out Nosferatu for a little bit now, and I want to try more Christmas-esque horror, so that will probably be the book for that. Next spot is Satanic Panic. For the hard mode, it must include a physical item that is used in the book that is considered an occult item. So this one's a little bit harder because you don't really know until you read the book. So I did grab 2 books off my shelf that I know lean very much into the occult territory, and hopefully one of these will have a physical item. So the first one is Negative Space by B.R. Yeager. I have had this for quite a while now. I'm really scared of this book. I'm not gonna lie. I'm terrified because it sounds so incredibly dark, so incredibly bleak. probably very traumatizing. So I'm a little bit nervous for this one, but I know it's very much in the occult vibes, and anytime I see somebody asking for occult recs on like Reddit or something, somebody will bring this book up. So I have this. I'm a little bit scared of it, and I don't know if it has a physical item in it or not, but I'll read it and find out. But if it doesn't, I do also have a backup plan of a book that I really want to read too, and I know is occult, and that is Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. Again, I don't know if there's a physical item in it. Both of these books will get read no matter what anyways, but this one, just everybody seems to absolutely love it. I heard it's pretty brutal, so I'm excited to get into it. It'll be nice if it can count for the hard mode, but we'll see. I'm still excited to read it nonetheless. Next up is a book club pick, and I'm not gonna pick any single one for this yet. I do have a book club that I run through my Patreon for my top tier, the Bunny Book Club, and we read a lot of unhinged women books that lean into horror, so I'm not gonna pick one particular one for this because honestly, we don't have all of the book club picks anyway, so I'm just going to eventually choose one to pick for it. This block does not have a hard mode, so it's just a book club pick. You just have to participate in a book club. The next box is Pink Horror, and for hard mode, it must be a debut novel, and I'm so excited to finally read this one, and for this, I'm going to read A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. From what I understand, this is very much like a cannibalistic type of book, and it leans very much into the themes of womanhood, taking your power, superiority, that kind of thing. So based on the way that this book is described, I think it'll fit the bill, and I'm really excited to read this one, so I'm glad it works for this board. The next space is multiple POV, and for hard mode, it must also have dual timelines or multiple timelines. I guess it could have more than one timeline. I think this one will work. I'm not totally sure with the timelines for hard mode, but we'll find out. I'm gonna read it anyways, and that is Thirst by Marina. I cannot say her last name. I'm really excited for this one. This is a sapphic romance between a vampire and a human, and I believe that the book is split up between the first part being about this vampire, and I think it starts out in like very early historical days, and I think the second half is following the human as she's writing letters or something like that. So I'm hoping that there's a jump in timeline. Because we have a vampire, I think the odds are pretty good since they live for a very long time. I'm hoping we expand a lot of timelines and we get both the vampire story and then the human story separately. So in my head, that's multi-POV as well. So hopefully this actually works for this spot. That's my plan right now though. Moving down to the last row. The first one is As Seen on the Big Screen, and for hard mode, you must have not seen the movie. So this one was like hard. I do have a lot of Stephen King books I could pick from, but I actually have 2 other spots for Stephen King that are on this row that we'll talk about in a second. So I didn't really want to pick a Stephen King one. So I think I might do The Watchers because that's available on KU, and that was recently made into a movie that I haven't seen, and obviously I won't see until I read this book. But that is the current plan, but this one could definitely change too, because to be honest, I'm not like super excited to read The Watchers. I've heard very mixed things, but I know that that is at least available to me very easily. So that is the current plan book for that, but we'll see. Between now and like next year, there could be a lot of other movie adaptations to books that I might already have, so maybe that'll be the case and I can make another book on my physical TBR work. Next spot is Out of Your Comfort Zone, and for hard mode, it must be by an author that you have read from before. So for this, I wanted to go with cosmic horror because that is very much out of my comfort zone. I don't know if I like cosmic horror or not. I've read a couple of stories and I've had very mixed experiences. I think I like it better when it's like a light cosmic element to it. But I did already read from Andrew Van Wey. I read Head Like a Hole, which has like a very light cosmic element to it, which I didn't honestly really realize. I didn't notice it because that's how light it was and I hadn't really explored cosmic horror. So he has another book called By the Light of Dead Stars, and I think this one leans a little bit more into cosmic just based on the cover. Honestly, it looks very cosmic to me. This is available on KU, so very accessible, and I've read from him before, so that'll be my book choice for that. The next spot is short story collection, and for hard mode, it must include more than 12 stories, so I have a physical book for this, and that is Night Shift by Stephen King. I actually have 2 versions of this book. I will probably read this one one, but I do have this old vintage beat up copy of it as well, but I'll probably just read from the new version. So this is a short story collection by Stephen King, and it has more than 12 stories. So I've heard really, really great things about this particular short story collection from him. I have not read any short stories by Stephen King, so I'm very curious about it. And this has actually been on my TBR for quite some time, so I'm excited to check it off. And moving into TBR Vet. So for hard mode, this is a book that should have been on your TBR for either over 2 years or the oldest book on your TBR, depending on when you started reading. So for that, I might regret this, but I decided to pick one of the oldest books on my TBR, and that is It by Stephen King. I have brought this book up a lot as being one of my most intimidating reads. I am intimidated, but this board is pushing me to finally finish this. Well, not finish it, just start it. To finally read it. So this is my pick for that because I've had this book, not this particular version, not this copy, but I've had this book since high school. I had a hardcover copy since high school. So it's been over 10 years. I need to read it. And the last spot is Creepy Crawlies. I don't currently own this book, but I will absolutely be buying it because I love this author so much. And for this one, I picked Brainworms by Alison Rumfitt. It obviously has worms, and worms are on the cover, so it counts for hard mode. I really don't know much about this one, but I think it actually might lean a little bit into cosmic as well, but her stories very much focus on transphobia. They're very, very dark, very, very potentially triggering for people, so check your trigger warnings. But I'm really excited to get to this one. I really enjoyed Tell Me I'm Worthless. As much as you can enjoy a book like that, again, it is so dark and heartbreaking, but so interesting, so well written, and I'm really excited to check out her newest work, so that'll be my pick for this spot. And that is going to be everything for today's video. If you guys are planning on partaking in this reading challenge, let me know. I would love to know. I'd love to know what your TBR is, if you have any books planned for it. Tell me all the things, tag me in Instagram post, anything that you might do in relation to this. I would love to see. So that is everything. As always, thank you so much for spending some of your time with me while I sit down and talk about books. If you haven't yet, please give the video a like, subscribe for future content, turn on the bell notification, all the fun YouTube things that help your girl out, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!